Introduction to Magic Volume 1, Rituals and Practical Techniques for the Magus by Julius Evola and the Group. Chapter 7, Opus Magicum, Fire, by Luque. Fire is regarded as the most important element in the magical ritual, though not the only one. Several different meanings have been attributed to it, according to the particular functions for which it is employed. Foremost among them is that of vivifying principle and of purifying element, which we will now discuss. We should mention, among the many symbols referring to fire, that of the ignis centrum terrae, the central fire, which is common to every tradition. In man, the heart is at the center of his being, red, with warm blood departing from there to permeate the entire organism with waves of life. The heart is portrayed as luminous and blazing, radiating love, flames, and light. But in order to better understand this, let us remember that in ancient Egypt, the heart was indicated as the organ of intelligence, which is an exclusively spiritual faculty. The heart is the most perfect and immediate manifestation of the spirit, and it is inviolable in its peculiar character of absolute, harmonious spontaneity. In hieroglyphics, the heart is portrayed as a vase, with two handles or ears. This precision of meaning gradually subverted over the course of the past 20 centuries, until the organic function of ordinary thinking, and also of intelligere, came to be attributed to the brain, has accurately been conveyed in Dante's Intellect of Love. Notice again how in modern language there are terms that refer to a particular function of intelligence, such as the verb to remember and the expression to learn by heart. Notice also the difference between ricordare and meminisse, between remembering and recalling. The science of language could make a remarkable contribution to modern psychology, shedding light on some hitherto mysterious points and suggesting to the careful observer the lost meaning of many symbols. Thus, it is necessary that during the ritual, all the functions of the spirit in its relations with the material body be reduced to the state of primitive and perfect harmony and consciousness. Not only is it necessary to become persuaded about this or that truth, but one must act in such a way as to put the spirit in full control of what it does. The ritual mentioned here is connected with the practice of breathing, which is executed according to the formula 2N, inspiration, N, retention, 2N, expiration, N, retention. In an early phase, and 2N, 4N, 2NN in a later phase. The ritual can be performed in the first phase, too. This will be discussed later on. For now, it is enough to know the meaning of the spirit, assumed in concentration and in silence, which, as an animating and sustaining essence of man, is symbolized by breath. Breath is necessary to bodily life, just as fire is indispensable to any form of physical life. Hence, the breath of fire, in various symbolisms. This is mentioned here as a guide in experiences that sometimes have various simultaneous aspects. Lying down after achieving the perfect rhythm of breathing in the above-mentioned phases, so that this organic function may continue with absolute spontaneity and without requiring any particular attention, one descends to the roots of being through concentration and silence. When one reaches the supreme phase and frees the spirit, this is realized as a small flame burning in one's heart. The body must be experienced as it pervaded by a wave of subtle warmth, flowing through the veins and the nerves. The flame burns, stating, "I am." The heart will feel as if it is burning and will be dissolved in the element of the magical fire. In this process, the greatest difficulty, if difficulty is the most adequate term in relation to such an act of the spirit, consists in the consciousness's the spirits or the self's descent into the heart. In fact, we are very accustomed to feel and to experience ourselves in the brain. Someone may even feel himself in a sense organ, when the perception is of such an intensity and violence that it attracts every attention toward a given point of the body. Thus, one momentarily feels like sinking, wherever the sensation of pain or pleasure has arisen. The process of descent into the heart is analogous to this, although none of those sensations is felt. Let us recall the spirit's sense of infinity and unconditional freedom, which is the last state of ritual silence. There should be no difficulty there in operating perfectly, causing the spirit to concentrate and to coagulate anywhere it wills. However, the habit of consciousness tied to an organ like the brain is such that the spirit is almost automatically attracted wherever it finds its habitual dwelling place. It is therefore necessary, in this case, to realize and to feel oneself as a mass of light consistency that descends from the brain through the centers of the larynx and pharynx down to the heart, slowly following an ideal rather than a physical line, gently and effortlessly. The spontaneity itself is actualized in the magical actions and in its most perfect and complete form. As warm and vaguely bright silence, the body, as the spirit determines itself, acquires bituminous consistency, the limits of which cannot be determined in space. The spirit becomes denser, bright, warmer. Despite the absence of the perception of bodily space, the spirit is aware of finding its place in it, a wave of warm, fluctuating light. The body becomes denser as the spirit turns towards the heart, a conscious act. I am in the heart. I feel it. I live it. One becomes aware of it as a new, wonderful immensity of which few people are aware. It is no longer restricted to the usual physical limitation, extending its igneous mass to the utmost darkness. And now a clarification that needs to be deeply understood. Man's life is ordinarily such that his action does not assign to itself its own objects, but rather receives them through the physical senses, as being imposed on it by them. So, in reality, man comes to depend on everything that is external and extraneous to him, on everything that is not himself. Not even the complex functioning of nervous reflexes is sufficient to affirm his own true freedom. From this state of affairs derives the fundamental notion of impurity, which, according to the classical rituals of various initiatory systems, must be resolved into the original purity of the burning of the secret flame, before the neophyte can acquire the knowledge and use of magical power. The fire of the spirit is thus initially directed to the catharsis of those dark elements that until now have ruled and contested, to burn in the supreme act of a perfect knowledge everything that is ignorance, to penetrate into the bowels of the earth, and to purify metals from various drosses. Gold, which, through the help of sulfur, raises the inferior elements up to its dignity. Sperm, which, mingled with the menstruum of the whore, generates the divine child. Ritually speaking, once the spirit has been established in the heart, which appears as an igneous mass, waves and bright flashes surface in the consciousness, beyond the boundaries of darkness, as symbols and mediums of the formless passive life. In the heart, the spirit creates a small flame, turning its essence into the latter's essence. Let the flame burn by itself, without any other support than its own wonderful power, a light shining in the red cavity of the heart. This is a timeless moment. Then let the flame spirit consciousness grow by itself, slowly and gradually growing bigger and more intense, more tenacious, alive and vivid, harder than a diamond. More and more let it burn and consume beyond the limits of the heart, expanding until it pervades the entire bodily nature, dissolving it into itself. The purification of the elements is thus fulfilled, and the spirit gradually acquires the immediate control, the conscious perception of each organ, of each smallest part of the physical body, having reached and fixed the last state one needs to proceed backward and return to normal consciousness following the spontaneous succession of phases, analogous to the previous ones, until one gets to the form of a small flame in the heart. Then suddenly end the ritual, remaining in this state. After some time, it will be easy to move rapidly to the heart and to arouse a flame in it. This flame will eventually remain burning as an inner act throughout the day. It will also be easy, starting from the heart, to penetrate any part of the body, and to live in its complex functions. Thus, consciousness, once definitely reinstated in its natural seat, will be able to experience states that are very different from the past habitual ones, and to operate in consequence, realizing that what has been exposed in the symbols of the inextinguishable flame. The ritual should be performed in the middle of the day, when the sun is at its zenith.